Hi, everybody. Welcome to Futurefast. And once again, we have Varad, Varadarajan Krishna is here with us. Varad is a old friend. And also, if you are onto this video, I seriously urge you that there are two other videos where in one, Varad shares his journey through to be an entrepreneur and also his IPO story, as well as in the second video where he talks about his journey in building the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is obviously a continuous journey, and also talks about the accelerator that he's working on. So I urge you all to look it up. And just to put the context in place, a quick introduction to Future Fast is that this is an effort to bring people who are contributing to the future, who are working towards things that are potentially likely to have an impact in the future. And naturally, obviously, we are hoping all this impact will be positive. And also, in the whole course, this conversations with people who are impacting the future, most of us should be able to draw some pointers that we could work on our own things, our own ventures that we are building. How could we use it to not, it's possibly make it bulletproof, if not at least how do we face it, handle it better, and also possibly get some thoughts on opportunities and overall see how do we work better and live a better life. So with that, once again, Varat, thank you so much for making time to join us. And we'll go straight on to ask you, what does future mean to you?
Yeah, future to me means more sustainable. So we have to leave the planet better than when we acquired it. So let me put it this way, right? When we all came into this world, I mean, you were born at a certain time, I was born at a certain time. The listeners who are watching also were born at different times. And the planet is going through the worst situation, the Mother Earth. It's all due to overexploitation, greed, and so on, right? So a lot has been written about it. I don't want to go over it. I want to say that we have to leave the planet in let's say, a better situation than when we came into this world. That is what I wanted to give as a message. Why? It's because today we are in great danger. I talked about, this fresh water issue.
Correct.
Likewise, there are challenges that exist even for breathing air. The air is highly polluted, right? Everywhere you see this AQI index. It is one of the, the whole year, right, keeps varying, but it's becoming unlivable. And, the air that you breathe is not fresh air anymore, especially in cities where there is so much industrialization, where there is so much commercialization. Whatever you breathe is not fresh air. So much so that companies have built business around it. Like if Dyson, one of the companies, right? They became a multi-billion-dollar company just on filtering air, purifying the air, right? So you see, there are certain things that we need for living. So like I said, one is water, right? It's the elixir of life. Then air for breathing, for people to survive. Oxygen is required. The third, we are looking at also the, if we look at, how we're going to run all these in terms of energy. So the energy deficiency that exists all over the world is today there's kind of over exploitation, right? How you run your car. So I just take only that. It's a very complex world, but I will only take the mobility only, because all of us want to be mobile. Take the jets we fly in, or the cars you drive, the motorbikes you drive. So much exploitation, right, of the nature. And we're also leaving behind residues. That's what is caused, this ozone layer. And, we're talking about large carbon footprint. And interestingly, there are startups in this space also who are looking at, there's one startup in Norway. They are actually measuring everything that you eat or activity you do, what's the carbon footprint you generated, so that you create an awareness. Suppose I drink a glass of Coke, or let's say I'm taking another drink. How it came into being, what kind of carbon was generated to create the drink.
Well,
So
incidentally, India's just 2-3 weeks ago has approved, Indian Parliament has approved the trading of carbon credits in India.
right,
So I
right.
think that's a huge move. I think you were talking about it, right? Unless
Yeah,
there is an economic relevance,
correct.
implementing any of these things is a challenge. So
Yes.
I think,
So, this interesting startup, what they've done is, for every carbon you're able to say save, you're going to get some points or credits that you can actually utilize to buy food items. So I'm just saying, right? We have to incentivize people. So if you can reduce, the 3 R's, right? Recycle, and if you could look at ways and means of whatever you're using today. It could be electronic, the mobile, right? If you see the electronic waste, the e-waste is one of the biggest waste that's been
correct,
created, and
correct.
it's all profit motive. Why? They bring one device, and the next 2 years it is outdated. They bring another superior device. So the companies are guilty of bringing this kind of newer and newer electronics with more and more capacity, more and more what you call as features, um, outgunning the other, right, all the time. And so what is happening is the one that they used to use before has now become a waste. And um, the companies also are responsible to look at how that waste could be recycled or reused, because
Yeah,
they are guilty of driving this whole economy, right? I told you this,
correct.
just like the way you
Well,
told me about.
interestingly, the batteries in the EVs, there is a big repurpose life cycle. Rather, repurpose is built into the battery life cycle.
Yes, correct.
So
So correct.
maybe this electronic industry has to go into that mode.
Yeah.
I think. So,
So
do you think that will be one of the things that could potentially we'll see in the future?
yeah, absolutely. So I'm just bringing up, one interesting company that is out of Silicon Valley. So this is an Indian actually, and what he has done is I'm actually talking to you from a laptop, right? So when I look at it today, the laptop, most companies, I don't want to name any brand, um, everyone produces in such a way that you cannot upgrade it. And the same way I told you about this handle device and whatever, right? Whatever you see in electronics, it's all about um, they want you to use it for a certain time, and then they want you to discard it so that you buy a new device, so that their profitability goes up and up. So this is their sustainability, right? That is how they want to sustain their operations or business. That's flawed thinking. They should look at.
Yeah,
So
it
this is
can't
what.
be you or me. It has to be you and me, both.
Absolutely right. So this startup. So whoever is watching, right? This should inspire them. Is this particular startup? What they've done is, you don't, once you buy a laptop, you don't discard it. And what they've done is, everything is something that you can fix it yourself. Suppose a chip changes, they made it in such a way that from today, say you have a latest version of Intel chip, something else comes up, you can take the chip and put back a new chip.
Oh, like
So
our olden day desktops. That's how we could upgrade the RAM, everything. Okay, interesting.
yeah, and so this laptop I'm talking about has got just about everything. Every component is something that you can upgrade, right? And so hats off to this guy, and Nirav Patel is the name of the guy, and he's building this. It's already successful, and he's built it into a business. It's it's a kind of a, I'd say, inspiring model. So innovation innovation with purpose, with responsibility, right? So that's how. I mean, that's, if you ask me, the future. Whatever we do, we should do with purpose, and also with responsibility, right? What is it it's going to lead to? Will it end up in landfills? Will it, pollute our environment even further? We have to think about those things, right? Those questions have to be in our mind, So this is what I recommend, in the future, every innovation that we are looking at, people that entrepreneurs that want to, or startups that want to get into something, bring that responsibility, into what you do. And I think with more and more education happening, more and more awareness being created, this responsible factor is going to come in. And this is going to be just like, how you are looking at measuring return on investment and so on, return on responsibility. You have to create some term like that so that they get measured as much as you make a decision on investment, on ROI and other factors. You need to also consider this aspect, and only then, they should be able to get business, or if they have those criteria fulfilled, right? Only then they should get investments and so on.
So just to rephrase you and the Spider-Man, to be an entrepreneur is to be more responsible, right? A great power comes with great responsibility. So to be an entrepreneur means to be able to claim a lot of power of influence to change. So it obviously has to come with a lot of responsibility.
Yes. So I was talking about, right, the right for us to have water, the right for us to have air, fresh air. These are all rights, right? So one of the things I was also talking about is energy. So today, everybody's talking about green energy and so on, right? And this is again a gray area, because how are you going to create the green energy? So what went into, for example, today everybody's talking about hydrogen, there's a lot of talk, green hydrogen and all that. But how the green hydrogen got created? What was the, let's say, the source from where it came from? Did you employ sustainable practices there? For example, right, I will tell you a good example that you will be able to easily relate. We all think about, windmills, right? We think freshest energy, the most natural energy is windmills, because it generates energy from the wind, right? The natural way. But something, the fans that are there, it actually is made with plastic. They are made with certain materials that are not recyclable. And so when they made those fans or those blades, they employed all kinds of practices in manufacturing it, and that has created a lot of waste, tons and tons of waste. Okay, so who is going to fix that problem? Right? And so we all think that, wow,
we are just postponing things, right? Even a lot of solar panels as well.
Exactly right.
So our thinking is not beyond the afterlife; it's only till life.
Correct. So we only looking at certain, they're not the entire cycle. We only take a piece of a particular cycle and think, oh, it is sustainable. It is done something which is.
Their value cycles have changed. In fact, in 2012, a solar panel, it used to take the energy it takes to build a manufacture a 1 square foot of solar panel. Today, a few months ago, maybe end of 2022, I was checking. I think it takes about 4.5, 5 years using the same solar panel to generate the number of units of energy it took to make it. Today, it takes about 4.5, 5 years. 10 years ago, it used to take almost 18 years. So technology is contributing in getting more out of it. But what is very important is that the thought process also has to go, like you say, into 360 degrees. The afterlife also has to be addressed. It's just not good enough that we are able to draw more out of it, but it is also important that after we draw, how do we deal with it? Because we cannot dump it on the next generation and say they will deal with it. Right?
Yeah. And also the origin. For example, right? I talked about this material for these blades. how that came into being. So you have to look at also the source of that, that
Correct.
material, where it came from, right?
There are a few companies working on it. They're working on more sustainable materials for it, but still the most which are popularly in use in function, they are clearly, like you say, are in the best case for their afterlife is to end up in a landfill, which
I'll
is
tell you.
300, 400 years.
No, I'll tell you why I'm talking about is because some of these companies, the biggest, as you know, the windmill companies come from Denmark. So one of them has approached me that they have this problem for many, many years and they want to solve this problem. And so they are looking for solutions to deal with this waste. So this is not yet solved. I'm just sharing with you, it's not very old.
So as
Um,
much as a problem it is, it opens up opportunity. So anybody,
yeah,
somebody who's watching or listening to this, take it up. This could be the unicorn idea for you to build on.
absolutely right. And so talking about the future, coming back to, I don't want to deviate too much because you wanted to focus on this. So I just want to say that there's so many opportunities, so we are kind of fixing all that wrongdoings that have happened, over the years. So the fixing itself is a huge opportunity. So, that the entrepreneurs that who say that, hey, I don't have any problem to fix or no idea to work on, sorry, there's so much to do, and so, I just want to tell you that if you just focus on fixing those wrongdoings, right, that have happened over the years, you have enough to do, enough and more to do. And guess what? You can learn a lot and you can come up with your own innovation. For example, I talked about this laptop, I talked about this electronic waste. If you can come up with some device that can incorporate all these features so that it's more sustainable for the future and doesn't end up in landfills, right? So once I buy a mobile, it is there with me for your entire life. And it's, of course, going to kill profits
Maybe
of
in a
this.
different form factor, different purpose, different utility.
No, so many people that, especially the industry, they may think, hey, it's going to kill my business. So be it. You need to figure other ways to grow, right? And you have to find, you know, maybe provide service through that product. So you're given device. They're all trying to, sell you the device again and again. Instead of that,
Well, I don't know, you may recall this. In the business schools, there used to be one case study talked about as someone who came up with a patented technology of a blade. You never have to sharpen it again.
correct.
So,
Gillette, right?
so you shave and you keep using the same thing forever. So then the whole proposition is that then how will any product sell? So
Yeah.
so the business schools were talking about build products or come up with model where you can get consumer to spend more and again and again. I think so. Somewhere this whole business model process also has to be becoming more distributed economy of sorts, where it becomes more responsible and monitor. Only making consumer to be more dependent and selling or buying my product perpetually is a uh, very sad approach that I think maybe sustained for last few hundred years, but that has to change. But do you think that will change?
Yeah, so I mentioned to you, right, this example of this laptop that's being
Right.
done. So Nirav Patel is the name, and I think you can Google in the
I'll
back.
Google it.
You can figure out more about it. He has a name for this company, but I'm not able to quickly recollect. But I'm saying they're already doing it, and I'm just not, saying it's theoretical. It's not theoretical. It's already under
In practice.
under
Yeah.
operation, and they're doing it. And so that's the future. That's the future for these kind of companies. You need to innovate. You need to bring something new, and it's not the end of the road, right? So you can see. Take the example of this blade you talked about, right? Gillette. So when initially there were one blade, now there are five blades also. And I'm telling you, there are people who tell me that it lasts for few years and they keep on using it and using it. One blade, they mention normally a few weeks, but people say the life is much, much longer. But their operations have not come to a standstill, right? They're still continuing the business and very profitable. And, it's part of the Procter and Gamble. They're part of the portfolio of Procter and Gamble, right? So I'm just saying that you need to come up with innovation, but not, let's say, always looking at profitability, right? That is, you want to think also how to do it in a responsible way, and the profits will come. And you can find ways to offer it as a service. You can build some brand around it, that you are more responsible organization compared to the rest that are not. And so I'm just seeing this through this ESG. You know about this, right? So there's a lot of compliance nowadays. Like you need to, just like you file returns and financial, you call this compliances. You need to do also the ESG compliances. So it has become a mandatory thing, for filing, for example, an IPO, or you are uh, traded in the stock market and so on.
Clearly. And also, I think Government of India's promises by 2035 or 50 that carbon neutral, India to be a carbon neutral. Was
Yeah,
it
yeah,
50 or 65? I'm forgetting it. So
yeah,
I think that opens up an all new opportunity for startups to take up and work on every sector, right? I think we are
yeah.
far from being carbon neutral on most of them.
Absolutely, we are far, far. I mean, I don't know amount of dependence we created for ourselves. It is going to be impossible to completely dissociate ourselves from carbon. I don't see that. We can only reduce the dependency on carbon to a certain level, not 100%.
Oh,
Other thing which I want
sorry,
to
it is
tell you,
2070. Government of
27,
India's target is 2070.
right,
So,
right.
which is about 48 years, 47 years from.
Right, right. So no, I was talking about air. I talked about food, and now I want to touch about this agriculture, right?
Yeah.
See, a lot of people are talking about organic. People are talking about natural farming. It's now become a big fashionable word, right? Um, so here again, I want to say, right, before 1950, you see, most of agriculture was anyway organic, right? No, there were no fertilizer companies. There were
Everything
no,
was organic, yeah.
yeah, everything was organic. And so um, we have to go back to that, because today it is all, whether it is the milk that you consume, or the vegetable and the fruits that you consume, everything is got some
Oh,
very deep.
incidentally, Varad, back in 2000, I was part of a NGO that we used to run called Slow Poison. So we had partnered with a agency associated with St. John.
Mm,
They had reached out to me, to us, to work on lead poisoning. So we did a study of lead poisoning in and around Bangalore. Mind you, this was 2000. That is 23 years ago.
mm,
And the acceptable limit of lead in our body, that's in blood, in water, and vegetables we took out of Jainagar market, Kea market, and Malleshwara market, and Bangalore dairy milk and fruits. All of this were way above the acceptable limits back in 2000. In 2000, I think in my circle, 1 in 7 people used to carry a mobile, right? So I was one of the few. I got my phone in '98, but majority got it later. But how much of heavy metal poisoning we are contributing to, right? And vehicles, the number of vehicles was so thin. And in the last 8 years, Bangalore is adding only four-wheelers more than 3,500 every month. So, and I've not seen any substantial heavy metal poisoning report or lead poisoning report. In fact, one of the podcasts we had this lady who runs an IVF center, and she was talking about 30% of youngsters between 22 and 32 in India, 30% cannot have a child. So
Big number, big number.
that's huge. And it's equal among both men and women. So I urge my audience and listeners to listen to her podcast if you have missed it. But it is surely scary for one. And of course, I must point out that she didn't say that everything is attributed to heavy metal poisoning. She was obviously saying that our lifestyle and stress and all that. But maybe because lack of a data report, particularly in the heavy metal poisoning, because I'm trying to attribute it to the study we did back in 2000. So I'm sure that is contributing significantly to it. So what you're saying is alarming. I mean, I think we are way past that red light, but don't know how. And this is really scary, but for the
Yeah.
future.
But the good thing, the good news, right? We don't want to leave everything negative here, is at least in the last 10 years or so, there's so much awareness about organic farming, natural farming. And so we don't need to educate people, right? So it's sold, right? People understand that. But how much of it this is true? How much
But
organic is this?
government still subsidizes the pesticides, chemicals, and poisoning continues to happen through our microplastic, to heavy metal, through our batteries and amount of electronic devices. I know I'm still going negative, so sorry. I think I
Yeah,
need
you're
you
right.
to come up with a little more positives on this.
I know. So, see, you are so right. So let's come to the positives, right? I can tell you that, you know, while whatever is already done, we can't do much about it, right? It's already happened. What's in the past is past. But we can try and undo some of these things by building awareness. And I think the startups and the entrepreneurs that are watching here should play a crucial role in not only spreading the word, but through their innovation, through their entrepreneurship activity, they should bring the impact. So it could be like a new innovation they want to bring that inspires others to create more innovation. So it is kind of, I would say, exponentially it'll spread. And then, just like we are fearing about the contamination, or the kind of poisons that are affecting us, the microplastic, like you said, in the water, it should create so much awareness that they should look at, maybe Coke you cannot do away with, maybe you can't do away with water bottles, but can we create some materials that wouldn't generate this microplastics? Can we look at, because see, some of the things we cannot live without, right? So fast food, fast way of living is part of our life now. We can't change it.
There's so much of
And
work happening on the sustainable packaging as well. But yeah,
right,
there's still a lot more to do. And I think there is a lot of hope on that side, for sure.
correct. So my point is that yes, certain things won't change. It will take a long time to change. So the best is to way, like this packaged or the way it is delivered to us has to change, and the innovation can come in, and that's an opportunity for those who are watching this particular podcast, right? Um, then the other thing which I want to talk to you, which is very, very important, is about people talking about this generative AI, right? A lot of discussions have happened on LinkedIn. There's so much going on there. So the Chat GPT, so there are so many versions. We only know Chat GPT, but there are probably 50 versions of it out there. Why Chat GPT is getting all the visibility is because Microsoft is promoting it. There's a lot of money being poured there, literally billions of dollars they're pouring in, and that's what you hear about that, right? So common question people ask me is, will these professions go out of date, like, out of practice, like, somebody doing law or somebody doing even medicine, right? Will they become outdated? The answer is no. We have seen over the years, right, when the computers came, there was a lot of protests. If you know the PSUs, right, they all said, banks all said, right, no bank, don't computerize the banking, don't computerize this, that, railways. Just about every PSU, there was strike. And you know what happened, right? See, there was no real job loss that happened, right? They were to be retrained, and the electronics, or let us say these computers, made the job easier. Repetitive tasks could be done easier, more structured way. Imagine people writing, in the railway, let's say, where you're going to buy a ticket. They used to write in hand, if you recollect, many years ago, right? They used to print something and then write in the hand and give you. From that, we have moved on to today, ticket in your mobile, right? And you can show this QR code, and then you can continue to travel. So I'm just saying the way the world has moved on. In fact, nowadays, just with your face, you can get your boarding pass. Your boarding pass is nothing but your face, right? You know that.
It's implemented in 2-3 airports in India.
Already, see. So I'm just saying to you, the technology may come in, newer and newer technologies may come in, but it's not taking away jobs. It's actually making the job much easier. It's kind of retraining, right? That happens. So that is what I want to tell people here who are worried or fearing what will happen. They're studying something. By the time they graduate, will there be a job in this area? For example, computer science. They're doing some coding. Coding won't be required, right? So
low code and no code is loaded now. I mean, it's so easy to make things.
Yeah, so for such people, I want to tell one thing is that, yes, you will get this chat GPT kind of tools to aid you, to help you to do your job much easier, and maybe come up with something else, like let's say that you're today a developer, you want to be a developer, but then the way the technology is moving, you wouldn't need to be a developer, but maybe look at analysis. Maybe you can use your brain or your brain power to look at other aspects of what the customer wants, and go beyond what they're looking for, using these tools. So that is how, we need to think. We need to evolve like that and not get overawed by these new technologies that are coming in. So that's one thing I want to allay the fears. That's how it has been, right? All over the world, if you see the trends, nothing has replaced humans as yet, right? So it is like you need humans because humans are the ones which are creating that tech or enabling that, and we need still someone to operate it, make it functional, and if something goes wrong, you need some person to still fix it, a human to fix it, right? So there is no way that you're going to be let's say history. No, you're not. So that's one thing I want to assure the students here and the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. Other thing which I want to tell you is that also in terms of healthcare is becoming more and more precise, and the days of guesswork, right? Even the best doctors do a lot of guesswork. So let's say, for example, somebody has an ailment or some disease, they give a spectrum of drugs, right? And they hope and pray that something will work out of that. They keep trying, one doesn't work, then they go to the other. So today, this genome-based sequencing, you can actually figure out what kind of drug for a particular person, should be given so that it's more efficient and more precise, right? So personalized, precise medicine is the future. So this is a great opportunity, and for those who are watching, who are studying for medicine or doctors, want to be future doctors, I'm telling you that this is the future, and so you will stay more relevant. No machine can replace. Analyzing all this.
I don't know if you remember when I was small.
Mm.
My parents used to take me to a doctor, and next to his chamber used to be this compounders section where he used to mix things and actually give a personalized medicine to each
Yeah,
of us. So we actually used to take home 2, 3 bottles where
yeah,
he mixes this concoction specific to
yeah.
each of us.
So
So
right.
I think we are going in a full circle now. Only thing
Yeah,
is, instead of a human being fixing these things, there will be a
yeah,
device which will code it in. So doctor, the moment he types it in his room and desk, we go out, and there will probably be some kind of an ATM of sorts where you show this is your ID, and for that ID, a medication which gets formulated, structured, packaged, and pushed out. That you just take it and come out.
yeah. Correct.
And
See,
this involves medicine, engineers,
yeah,
designers, uh, pharmacists, uh, 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 probably biology students. Everybody have to work here. So
yeah.
and
Correct.
mechanical, obviously. So I think there is job for everybody here.
Absolutely. And other thing which I want to convey, probably because this list can go on, but I want to leave with a good message is that a lot of innovation is going to come. We are going to move from a services economy to innovation-driven economy. And if you see, the world leaders today in economy are all innovation-driven. For example, take US or China. There's a lot of innovation going on there. There was a time when China was branded as a copycat and all that, but that has changed. Now
Significantly.
a lot of innovation is going on there, and the whole world were to disappear, right? What remains is this innovation, the IP that is there, and so that is what we need to strengthen our education. We have to move away from being a service oriented. Whatever we do is today service oriented, right? So we have to move away from that because um, that can actually generate a lot more value for us. So I'm not talking about money per se, right? Value in the sense, the value in terms of lasting legacy, and even if you create an IP, right, you can keep licensing it and generate revenues for many years to come, generate value for so many people in the ecosystem, and that is why it's so important that we need to, even the educators that are watching here, we should coach and mentor the students to uh, bring the research findings. Whatever the research they do shouldn't be only academic. Most people are today, you see, we have a legacy so far, in all our higher education institutions, is that a lot of research has come out, but the research is only for academic purpose, just to get the degree or whatever, to serve that purpose. But it has to go beyond that and commercialized, and that generates IP. And guess what? Then these institutions don't need to actually even take tuition fees from students, because the value they can create, the IP they can create, is so much in terms of the revenues that they can generate, right, by licensing it or even selling the IP and so on. They can generate so much that the institution can run forever. And so if you see these Stanfords of the world or the Cambridge, so many companies have been spun off, and they just take a tiny 1%, 0.5% sometimes, become invaluable, right? So Stanford owns a small percentage of Google. That's worth billions of dollars, and they don't need to take any money from anybody, right? The education can be offered free of cost. Um, just
No.
on that, right?
But
So
yeah, just for the greed, people still do. But yeah, I think
yeah,
how much ever we do innovate,
yeah.
we will
So
also
so
have the baggages of greed.
so I'm also talking from the point of view of the education, right? See, education should also become right, and maybe with that I will stop, because I think
Correct.
you're
Yeah.
running out of time. Is that the education today that we're going through also is ripe for disruption? Every education is today is driven towards attaining degrees, some certificate, some diploma, and so on, and that has to change. And we're seeing already, right, some of those disruptions happening. And these institutions that are today trying to still offer the same thing, which are not relevant to the market or for what is required for the future of these students, have to change. If they don't change, then the students will not come. And why? It's because there are so many other, I would call it like disruptions that have come up. Like, many people I know are educating themselves on YouTube. One company, right? Physics Wala. That company became a unicorn just through YouTube. And he was, the founder himself is a dropout. And so it's a great example of how the disruption is going to happen. People can go very, very precise, very, very deep into some tech or some field or sector, and they become an expert on their own. And the future, the universities are the ones that are going to mentor and coach. So this is how people have to evolve. The institutions have to evolve. I'm talking about the decision makers, this institution who are watching. I must tell them, my strong advice is that you should facilitate learning. You should facilitate, the absorption capacity, right? Somebody's very interested into something, provide him or her with all the facilities and support that your institution can do. And remember, the institutions are successful because of the students, not because of the university. All these big names, right, we're talking about, whether it's MIT or the IITs and all that, they became famous because of their students, and if the students were not there, those institutions have no relevance today. And so this is so important for these people that are watching, that you have to become a facilitator of the future. And increasingly, what is going to happen is those institutions that are facilitating that, you can come from anywhere. You don't need to go through a formal 5 semester, 8 semester, 10 semesters. No, that's not required. You can go, somebody can watch today. There's so much resource available on the internet. You can just go very, very deep and acquire a PhD. I'm telling you, it's possible that somebody can become very experienced in just like the area I mentioned to you, like chat, generative, you're looking at chat GPT kind of a startup. You can become one by just going into a particular area, searching on it, go very, very deep, and understanding how it is done, and you can do it yourself. And so this institution should become somebody who can grade them after they've attained certain level of proficiency. It can come from anywhere, right? So that the knowledge can come from anywhere, but institutions should be able to rate them and grade them and then provide them certification, right? So that's how the future has to be, and not the way it is today, where you give a certain syllabus and say, hey, memorize this, go through rote learning and all that. Talking about from Montessori level onwards, right up to postdoc levels, this is how the education has to evolve. And, you don't need to go through any formal structure, right? You don't need to go through a particular building or something, right? You can get rated by Harvard, you can get rated by Stanford, you can get rated by IIT. If that's the way it should be. You can be rated by somebody who's succeeding in business. You should be rated by a business school. And so that's how the world is going to move. And the institutions that adopt that first are the early movers. They are going to succeed. And the others are going to struggle. And the future I see is also that these classrooms, the big edifices that are there, will become co-working spaces, more like incubation, right? So there are people coming from all walks of life.
You mean these colleges, school, institutions?
Yeah. Why education should be privilege of the rich few? Why it should be? Education should be freely available. I want to become, say, somebody, like an energy expert. I should be able to become, right? And so that's how the future, you have enough motivation to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, whatever. When you are motivated, self-motivated, the ecosystem, the education ecosystem should encourage that, should support that, and make that a reality. And that is the success of the education system, not the way it is today, right? Suppose you don't get a certain mark, and then you have a dream to be an engineer or
Yeah,
dream to be a doctor. You cannot acquire it because you don't have the marks, right? That's
correct.
unfortunate. That's very unfortunate.
That's very unfortunate. Hopefully, it's going to change soon,
Yeah,
rather soon, because I think this Ukraine war showed us, right, that there were so many Indian students studying medicine in Ukraine. And the reason they went is that a 5-year program in Ukraine is cheaper than 1 year in a reputed medical school, even in, say, Bangalore or some.
right.
So many Indians are going out studying in Ukraine. Of course, now not there. Few other former Soviet Union countries and also Russia, Philippines. So
Yeah,
that's only medicine.
yeah. And
So
so that goes back to what, Gurukul system, right? So if you know the Gurukul system, where was the degree? Where was somebody giving you a formalized education? So there used to be a teacher, and you can go and learn something that you want. You can become a best archer, you can become a best surgeon, and so on, right? So Dhanvantri was a surgeon, right? So people who can go and take that kind of a personalized education, they became what they were at the time. So that's what we're going to move into. And the education system that are today preparing for it are the ones that are going to survive and succeed. Others will just vanish. And I will tell you here one work done by Professor Galloway. You should just Google, you'll find him. So I'm, someone, right, watching this all the time. I can say it is like a nonfiction for me. It's like a book, and he writes blog every week. You should read those. Professor Scott Galloway is his name, and he teaches at the New York University Stern. So he was an entrepreneur prior to this, and he was in the Silicon Valley and went through the cycle of building companies and scaling it and all that. And then he decided to become an entrepreneur. After that success, he became a professor. So today he talks about all the disruptions in education, right? And so he has written one particular blog, he says only 50 universities will remain in the
okay,
next few years. All the rest will vanish. And he's saying that today, let's say Stanford education costs $100,000 a year. It'll be made affordable, like $100, $200, by these tech companies. So he has even given examples of Stanford partnering with Google, Harvard partnering with Microsoft, and so on. And they will make this education so affordable. And coming back to the dream, right? I said, why should education be a privilege of the few? Certain degrees and whatnot. Why should it be? It's so corrupt, right? And if you really ask me, it's a scam. It should be, a hollowed portal like Cambridge or Oxford. They should make education available to all. And they are doing something today. All these top ones, they are doing something today. And that is what is going to help them to survive. Those will be the ones 50 surviving. The rest will all vanish. That's his prediction.
interesting. Let's see that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's not far away. Okay. You said in the next few
okay,
years.
okay, wonderful. We'll also Google this, and the other name you proposed is Nirav Patel, right?
Nirav Patel. Yeah.
Nirav Patel.
Nirav
Okay,
Patel. That's
so
correct.
we'll look them up, and so good. Thank you. Just about to close. So, is there any other recommendation you want to make? Give, suggest. I mean, obviously, apart from Professor Scott Galloway's blog, you said.
Yeah. See, other thing I want to tell you is that, yes, all of us go into some depressing situations often, right? Because we see suddenly some news coming in, this war, Ukraine and Russia, nobody expected the COVID situation, and now the earthquake. So, some negative news or the other keeps coming in, right? So, how to keep yourself positive, right? In those situations, develop some level of spirituality. So I want to say that you have to become aware that this is the way nature is, this is the way the world is. And by becoming spiritual, by meditating, you will become more matured as an individual, and you'll be able to handle. We all know that, right? Some of the situations we cannot avoid. It is something we have to go through, and how to go through. You have to face it, and you'll be better prepared to face it if you follow these, what I just said, become more spiritual and, also meditate, develop that, I would call like a routine, in your life. Then you are better prepared to handle all these eventualities, because you cannot avoid it. So better be prepared. So that's the message I want to leave with.
Fantastic. So, future is going to be scary, uh, exhaustive, challenging, and also loaded with whole lot of opportunities because you want to change things to make it good. And I think the closing message from Varad is so apt that meditation is one superpower if we can develop it into be a power to to just tell us that or to save us from keeping us away from the stress potentially of things that we can't change, and also give energy to work on things that we can. So I think it's a great tool. Thank you so much, Varad, once again.
And
And
be proud of your culture, right? So there's a lot of people writing wrong things. Don't get distracted by that. We have thousands of years of wisdom, uh, by sages, about meditation, about all that we talked about, spirituality. They are not fools, right? They are not people who used to think about this and write this and left those books for us, those works for us. It is for us to benefit from, and so don't get distracted by these kind of messages coming from everywhere. um, be grounded, and be sure that if you do this, you can't go wrong, right? And like we just discussed about meditation, we discussed about spirituality, you wouldn't go wrong. So I would wish you the very best, and we are here to support you in any way, to make your journey successful.
thank you. And you will find Varad's LinkedIn link shared below the video. So do reach out, and also the links to other accelerators and initiatives that he's running. And I urge you to please look them up. And only one thing you will get out of it is that you benefit, no matter what. All right. Having said that, thank you for staying with us. And you like it, please go ahead and share it. Once again, Varad,
So,
thank you so
Nanju,
much.
thank you so much, Nanju. It was wonderful talking to you, and sharing my thought, experience, um, you know, so that this becomes available to everyone. And knowledge is for sharing, right? At the end of the day, and you're doing a phenomenal job of bringing every week someone new, share their perspectives, so that the pains and the difficulties that each of us went through, the speakers went through, you don't have to go through. So you can learn and build on top of it. That brings back something I said, right, about self-made entrepreneur. There's nothing like that, right? So you learn always from the success and failures of other entrepreneurs, other people, so that you don't need to go through that same.
Correct.
With that
Absolutely.
positive message, be positive. Always look at the brighter side. Um, you know, Nothing lasts forever, right? So if you're going through some difficulty, some, I would say, tough situations, it's not going to last forever. And remember one thing, right? For every door that closes, 1,000 opens. But we look at the closed door so long, we are not looking at the ones that are opening up.
Opening.
So it's so important that we should be aware. When you are in a tough situation, look around you. Keep your eyes and ears open. There'll be other opportunities opening up for you. On that positive note, wish you the very best and all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the ride.